Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live, co-host on NBC Sports Network, ProFootballTalk.com. Let me start with that, Mike. Good morning. Do you think the NFL would look at a lottery for the number one overall pick?
Well, I assume, Dan, and good morning. Hello, great to be with you as always. I think the NFL has at least considered it. I think the NFL won't do it. At least they won't do it in the way the NBA does it, because the NFL wants to preserve the disconnect that currently exists, I believe, between the integrity of the game and every team trying to win every single game, and all the way down to Week 17. Even if you're 1-15, you're trying to win that last game. And the obvious draft hype that we hear every year of how great it is to pick high in the draft. And the moment you have a draft lottery that is weighted based upon how poorly you did the prior year, that's the moment you legitimize tanking. And the NFL just doesn't acknowledge it. That's the only way to deal with it. Act like it doesn't exist. Surely it exists at the highest levels of a team. An owner thinking, hey, you know what? What's the difference between 3-13 and 2-14 anyway, when I can get a guy that's going to transform the franchise? So let's bench the starters. Let's see what the backups can do. We're evaluating them while also hoping to lose so we can get that high pick. So I don't think the NFL wants to do it because the NFL doesn't want to acknowledge tanking. Because think about what an event – if the NFL did it right and did it like city to city like it does with the draft and played it in one of the cities where the fan base has a chance of having the number one overall pick, it would be an incredible offseason event. But I don't think the NFL wants to touch that one at all.
I saw this tweet from Ross Tucker. He talked about the Jets situation. The head coach, Adam Gase, got the GM fired, alienated the team's best offensive player, Le'Veon Bell, became the only coach with a GM title, brought the circus back to town, traded a starting linebacker for peanuts, all within 10 hours. That's a heck of a day. How do you spin this if you're a Jets fan or the Jets organization?
Well, I don't know that there's any way to spin it other than, look, the hay's already in the barn for the 2019 roster. The team is set. They're ready to go. There wasn't much that Mike McCagnon was going to do anyway. And the best time to fire a GM is after the draft. Now, the problem is if you had an inclination to fire the guy before the draft, why did you keep him around? And then the question becomes, how much juice did McCagnon really have leading up to the 2019 draft? It could be that as they got closer and closer to the draft, maybe Gase had more influence as they set the board. Those are things we're never going to know. But I'm a big fan of just ripping the Band-Aid off in one motion. If you're going to fire the coach and the GM, do it together, because now you're going to have either a GM that is hired by Gase and Gase emerges as the guy who's running the franchise, or if you go out and hire somebody with no connection to Gase, you get this arranged marriage like John Idzik and Rex Ryan in New York, where the new GM is biding his time to when he can fire Gase and go hire his own coach. And that's not good for anybody either. So now that they're in this spot, the best move is to let Gase hire the GM and then hope that the two guys can work together. Give them equal accountability so there's no temptation to try to undermine each other. They either both succeed or they both fail, and they both get fired, not one or the other.
Yeah, but you bring in Le'Veon Bell, and then all of a sudden Bell hears that the head coach thought that the team overpaid for him. How does that play out?
Well, they did overpay for him. I think they were bidding against no one in the magnitude that they ultimately paid Bell. There was a lot of fake stuff out there about the Ravens being in on it. They never even talked to Bell's agent. And I think Gase knew that, and he was banging the drum internally, but it never registered with McCagnon, which would add to the friction. Now, all Gase has to do is grab Le'Veon Bell and say, look, I know you've seen some stuff out there. I never didn't want you. I just wanted us to do a more aggressive negotiation when it was time to try to work this out. And congratulations, you and your agent got more than I thought you should have got. Now go out and prove me wrong and earn this contract, and we're in this together, and our legacies are tied to it, and let's win some football games. I think it's something that Gase should be able to fix in 5 minutes if Bell ever shows up, and I assume he will at some point.
Dak Prescott says that he knows that the deal will get done. It's no rush. I might be in the minority here. I'd like to see one more year with Dak Prescott before I'm going to pony up $100 million, Mike. Your thoughts on the Cowboys and Dak Prescott?
Well, I think the smart move for the Cowboys, because Dak Prescott can talk about what he wants, and we've seen players do that. And it's easier to talk about it when there isn't an offer sitting on the table of life-changing money. But then all of a sudden, they put an offer out there. And you look at what they're offering versus what you're going to make versus the injury risk you're going to carry for another year. And I think there's a way that the Cowboys can put together a package where they are making a big but reasonable investment. Somewhere in the range of $25 to $28 million per year for Dak Prescott. Not $30 million, not Russell Wilson money, not Aaron Rodgers money. 25 to 27 with the understanding you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Anytime you play on national TV, you're going to draw a gigantic audience. You're going to have endorsements. He's already the Dan and Yogurt guy. How's Dak Prescott the Dan and Yogurt guy? He's going to have more endorsements. He's going to waltz into a broadcast booth when his career's over. There's inherent value in being the Cowboys' starting quarterback. You throw that on the top of whatever offer they eventually put on the table, and Prescott looks at that, and he looks at making $2 million this year with the injury risk, with the risk that maybe he's not going to have a great year, and I think it's going to be very hard for him to say no to that.
Any update on the NFL if there will be punishment for Robert Kraft?
Well, the criminal proceeding in Florida has to end before the league will even begin to look into this. And with the ruling from earlier in the week that the surveillance video won't be evidence at trial, there'll be an appeal of that ruling by the prosecution. That delays the process. The NFL will do nothing until that criminal process is over. And then the question becomes, Dan, whatever the end result is, and right now it's looking like Robert Kraft is going to be exonerated. Without that video evidence, without the evidence from the traffic stop, you can't prove solicitation of prostitution beyond a reasonable doubt. Then the question becomes, you look at the personal conduct policy line by line. Where's the violation? If it was a player, there'd be no punishment if there's exoneration for solicitation of prostitution. So where is the violation, and how does the league turn that into punishment of an owner? We hear all the time owners are held to a higher standard, but if it's something a player wouldn't be punished for at all, what's the higher standard? That's going to be the challenge for the league, because a lot of people are going to be saying he must be punished. But if you look at the personal conduct policy and he's ultimately exonerated for solicitation of prostitution, I don't know that the personal conduct policy will justify a punishment at all, and that's going to be a mess for Roger Goodell to have to fix.
Most improved team after the draft is who?
Oh, I don't know, because we never know how good these guys are going to be until they get on the football field. I kind of like what Washington's done, because I really like Dwayne Haskins, and I think if Kyler Murray hadn't chosen to play football, Haskins would have been the guy we were talking about as the first overall pick. I think he's much better than he gets credit for. People say he lacks mobility. That means they just haven't watched any of his film from college, because he's got great mobility in the pocket. And if Montez Sweat, the guy they traded back into round one to get, who ran a 4.41 40 as a defensive lineman, if he doesn't have a heart issue, if he isn't impaired by that, he can make a huge impact right away. And that's a team that no one's paying attention to. Those are always the teams to watch. Aren't they the ones that surprise us? No one's paying attention to them. They come up, they start winning games, and then we get on the board with that team, and then the Patriots win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes.
Wait, do you think that if Arizona had the number one pick and Kyler Murray was playing baseball and they still had Josh Rosen, that they would have drafted Dwayne Haskins?
Well, no, but maybe somebody would have traded up. I mean, he would have been the guy with the tie, and maybe they would have. I don't know. But he would have been the guy we were talking about as the top quarterback in the draft, and maybe I don't know. But the Giants could have had him, and they didn't want him. But who knows what the hell the Giants are thinking? But I think Haskins is a guy who would have gotten a lot more buzz. He was kind of forgotten and overlooked in this process. After his bowl game, after that performance, hey, this guy does look like the number one pick in the draft. But then here comes Kyler Murray, and we just forget about Dwayne Haskins.
Thank you, Mike. Great to talk to you again, buddy. Take care.
All right, Dan. See you, pal.
Yeah, that's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live, co-host on NBC Sports Network and ProFootballTalk.com.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.